Wikipedia describes you as an author, philosopher, and a conspiracy theorist.
I don't know what is a conspiracy theorist. Can you kindly explain it to me?
Somebody that has theories about the world and intricately thinks about them. I think the term has a lot of negative connotations, unfortunately so.
I seem to just understand anyone who penetrates the truth when they are telling lies, we are this conspiracy business.
Yeah, it's dismissed.
When we tell the truth while you're telling lies, then we are in conspiracy. I have no time for that nonsense.
Yeah. And how much of this journey of knowledge that you've been on, for the longest time, dealing with the really intricate issues of matters of faith and politics and also, I suppose, really complicated things that challenges the way even established theologians see things. How much of that have shaped the way you see the world at the moment? Or maybe I should ask, how does Syekh Imran Hosein see the world at the moment?
I see the world through truth and not through lies. I see the world through actual reality rather than through appearances, at a time when appearance and reality are not the same. I see the truth through the Word of God, the one God. Whether you accept it or you don't is irrelevant to me. The Quran is the Word of God. And if you don't accept it, when you die on Judgment Day, you'll have to face the truth that the Quran is indeed the Word of the one God. And the truth the Quran says of itself that it is absolute truth. My scholarship is built on truth in the Quran.
And that sometimes, is, very sensitive for some, at least, difficult to accept, because some would say there are versions of truth, or the truth can sometimes be subjective, which, is a complicated thought nonetheless. However, I want to maybe then understand whether, because there's been variations to this debate, you often were attacked for certain positions that some would say, discourages or moves away from, sort of mainstream scholarly work, etc., even on matters of hadith and so on that you disputed at some stage, not hadith as a principle, but certain types of hadith. And I'm wondering whether you find that the Muslim discourse has matured through the years to be able to accommodate discussions that would hopefully take us further in understanding matters of faith.
I am not a part of such discussions. I never enter into debate. I say, if you're not comfortable with my views, then don't accept them. I don't need your acceptance of my views. No. I follow the prophets of God who walked on the earth. And when they spoke the truth. And if you didn't accept it, they moved on. I'm not with any boxing gloves to fight with anyone, but if you come at me with a chip on your shoulder, I fight fire with fire.
Yeah.
But those who come to me humbly with thirst for knowledge in their hearts, I'm happy to present the Quran to them, absolute truth in the Quran. I know that I will always remain a voice crying in the wilderness, especially in a world in which, when COVID came 3 years ago, and the slave master said, stand 3 feet apart, and all the slaves stood up beautifully so, 3 feet apart, instead of resisting the slave master and being faithful to the truth, and saying, if I am not allowed, if the Lord is not allowing me to stand shoulder to shoulder in prayer, I prefer to suspend the congregational prayer rather than to betray the truth. So why do I have to engage in discussions with such people? I don't have time for them. So if that is mainstream discourse, let mainstream discourse go its way and leave me alone.
and I want to deal with a When we get to modern day politics in Syria and how it relates to historical interpretation, I've been grappling with this subject for the longest time over the last couple of weeks. But I want to maybe just talk about something that was seen to be terribly controversial. I always with keen interest wanting to ask you this question for very many years. Ya'juj and Ma'juj, Gog and Magog, that was a highly controversial viewpoint.
There's no controversy in Gog and Magog. It depends on what is your primary source of knowledge.
And what was
my primary source of knowledge is the Quran. Their primary source of knowledge is other than the Quran. So then, where do we go?
And your argument is that this
the primary source of knowledge for me is the Quran. The primary source for others is not the Quran. How do we solve that problem? Answer: I go my way and you go your way.
No, fully understand. I understand that. But what I want to understand is, are you saying that period of Ya'juj and Ma'juj is the period? Is the physical, appearance? What do you understand by the arrival?
What you should ask me is not what I am saying, but ask me what does the Quran say. I'd be happy to tell you what is in the Quran.
Let's go there.
Because these are not my views. This is based on the Quran, and of course it will take some time to explain the subject of Gog and Magog. I have written something like 31 books already. My 32nd book, The Quran and Russia's Destiny, is now being printed. And my 33rd book on Dajjal's Footprints in Time, I just spoke last night at Masjid al-Qarar on the system of sacred time in Islam. So I am a writer, and I have a book entitled on Gog and Magog, an Islamic view of Gog and Magog in the modern world. I think that's the title. And when we go to the Quran, we find from the Quran that Gog and Magog are human beings, not some funny creatures living in the interior of the earth. I don't know from which garbage bin that rubbish came from. My language is harsh.
It is.
Yes, but I'm tired of people who have betrayed the truth. If you want knowledge, go first to the Quran. Don't go elsewhere. And when you go to the Quran, you know there are three kinds of beings. There are the angels, there are jinn, and there are human beings. Not funny creatures living inside the earth with 24 ears and 3 noses. No.
Yeah.
Human beings. And human beings don't live in the interior of the earth. Where did that stupidness come from? Human beings live on the surface of the earth.
So how does one determine, or not you, but as you say, Quran is your foundation, that these Ya'juj and Ma'juj are expressed in the form of human beings and that they are already here?
That's a good question. I like good questions. The Quran speaks of Gog and Magog as those who commit fasad. Good. Now then, stay with me. There are only three kinds of beings. There are angels, there are jinn, and there are human beings. The Quran does not speak of anything else other than these three. If it does, then kindly give us the information from the Quran about some other kinds of creatures created by Allah who are creatures capable of committing fasad. Because fasad is a sinful deed. Animals don't commit sin. I don't think even in South Africa animals don't commit sin. Trees and plants don't commit sin. Birds don't commit sin. Only human beings and jinn commit sin, not angels.
Because they've been given choice.
Human beings and jinn have a free will.
Yeah.
And as a consequence can commit sin. And if Ya'juj and Ma'juj commit fasad, then even a schoolboy will know they have to be either human beings or jinn. But we have to eliminate jinn. Why? Because when Zulkarnain built a barrier built of blocks of iron, and he blocked the passage in between the mountains, then Ya'juj and Ma'juj could neither penetrate nor could not scale that barrier. They were contained. But you can't contain jinn with a barrier or a wall. They will pass through the wall. And therefore even a schoolboy will come to the conclusion that Ya'juj and Ma'juj are not angels, Ya'juj and Ma'juj are not jinn, Ya'juj and Ma'juj are human beings. But this elementary analysis is beyond their capacity to comprehend. So what can I do with these critics?
And I think personally for me, if that foundation, stands, would you then say they are two individual persons, or would you say they represent two types of people in which, you talk about forces of good and Quran talks about forces of good and forces of evil?
No, they're not good. There is no evidence at all in the Quran, the basis of which you can say people who commit fasad can possibly be good.
Sure, but what I'm asking is it a type of people, or are we talking about a specific person? Because in different streams of faith, there is this waiting for a Messiah, and what that Messiah will look like, etc. Is it one particular individual that we're talking about?
There is nothing at all in the Quran which even remotely suggests that God can be one person, or Magog can be one person. Rather, they have to be perhaps a group of people, a tribe. And they are a tribe of people who all commit fasad and who all live the same way. However, when we expect to find one set of footprints, we find two. Strangely so, mysteriously so. And we ask, why has the divine wisdom done this? Answer, the divine wisdom has given us a means through which, by looking at their footprints, you can recognize these have to be Gog and Magog committing fasad. Fasad is corruption which can destroy. And Allah has reserved the greatest punishment of all for fasad. Okay? So people who are wicked in their conduct, and South Africa, more than most countries, is intimately aware of Gog and Magog, because they suffered from the oppression of Gog and Magog for 300 years in this country. Yes, 300 years. If the scholars of Islam in South Africa are not as yet capable of recognizing that the oppression which lasted in this land for 300 years was oppression from Gog and Magog, don't blame me for that.
Can I think of Zionism in its current form as a Magog and Magog? This entire concept of spreading corruption in the earth, the way in which it happens. Is Zionism Gog and America Magog?
Good question. When we go to the Quran to identify Gog and Magog, we find that Allah destroyed a town. The Quran does not identify the town. And then after Allah destroyed the town, He expelled the people of the town, and then He banned their return, that they could never return to reclaim this town as their own. Until when? Until Gog and Magog are released, and when they are released, then something will happen only once in history. Let me repeat that. Something will happen only once in history, and that is Gog and Magog will spread out all over the earth. And Allah created them with a power such that none but he can destroy them. Saddam Hussein could not destroy them. Gaddafi could not destroy them. Nelson Mandela could not destroy them. No one could destroy them except Allah. And when they spread out all over the world with their indestructible power, they take control of power in the world. And as I said to you, and I'm saying it for the third time, this will happen only once in history. And when they take control of power all around the world, they will bring these people back to that town to reclaim it as their own. How do we identify Gog and Magog? And how do we identify the town? This is not sophisticated analysis. This is elementary thinking. But yet, I have been a lonely voice crying in the wilderness on Gog and Magog all my life. And it seems that I leave the world like this, as a lonely voice crying in the wilderness, because no matter how simply I speak, they won't accept it. So what do? What is the town? Which is the town? And who are those who brought them to the town? The answer is to be found in a prophecy of Prophet Muhammad, alayhi salatu wasalam, connected to Gog and Magog. He said that Gog and Magog will be destroyed by Allah in Jerusalem.
And you've written quite extensively about that.
He said that Gog and Magog will be destroyed by Allah in Jerusalem. The word Jerusalem is not to be found in the Quran and the Hadith because it's in Arabic. And the Arabic language does not have Jerusalem. The Arabic language has Baytul Maqdis or Al-Quds. But some people don't know that. So leave them in their ignorance. I'm tired of them, really. I'm tired of them. I don't know why do I have to devote time, precious time, in answering people who have no capacity to think. I'm wasting my time. So if the town is Jerusalem, the people would be the Jews. And then it was the Jews who were expelled from Jerusalem, and then Allah placed a ban on them. They could never return to Jerusalem for 2,000 years. And then came a modern Western civilization, of which the Dutch were a particularly nasty part. I don't know what they are today, but at that time they were a nasty part. Britain was sophisticated in its nastiness, but the Dutch were brutal in their nastiness. And that's why Indonesia today is still Indonesia, while Malaysia is half British and half Malay, not Indonesia, because the British came to Malaysia and the Dutch went to Indonesia. Yes, so when modern Western civilization took control of power in the world, and this happened only once in history, and it is not going to come back. Trump cannot bring it back. No, Western civilization took control of the power in the world, and then they brought the Jews back to Jerusalem to reclaim it as their own, as a consequence of which Gog and Magog are located in modern Western civilization. They are those who control power in the modern West. My critics can shout from the mountaintops, the Table Mountains, as much as they want. This is the truth, and the truth will prevail.